because your vision, first of all, you're running full speed, so your eyes are bouncing already.
Yep.
Okay. And second of all, when you got stuff in front of you that's coming down, makes it twice as hard.
Yep.
Twice as hard, and I've been around a lot of cold games, Green Bay, even in Seattle when it's snowing. It's, first of all, it's hard enough to be a good receiver running full speed and trying to catch a ball. Second of all, it's harder when you got half the vision of what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, too, because a lot of those receivers for Washington State, and if you look at where they came from, and they signed from California, they signed from Florida, Texas kids. I mean, it's kind of funny in that regard. I mean, the Cougars as a team and the Cougars and Washington State, fans might be used to the snow, but a lot of their best pass catchers are not used to the snow, and you can see that throughout that game.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Well, switching gears a little bit. I mean, so obviously there was some monster games throughout rivalry week, and another team that I messed up. I picked the wrong team, as I thought that Michigan would be able to hold up at home. I thought that running game, the same way that Washington was able to run the ball in Washington State, I thought that Michigan would be able to run the ball in Ohio State, and that was certainly not the case, in part because Ohio State just kind of jumped down their throat. So what did you think in that game? Did that wind up surprising you, or were you expecting the Buckeyes to be able to blow out Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines?
Well, the thing about the final score surprised me, to see how many points they put up with Michigan's defense.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's legit. I think what happened was they got down 2-3 scores, and they lost their edge from the standpoint they need to throw themselves back into it.
Yeah.
In the quarterback end of it. In my opinion. Now we'll see how it shakes out. But Ohio State dominated that game.
Yeah.
Dominated. And to do what they want to do and get ahead and then be able to run the ball like they did, it was over. It was over. And that's a tough place to play, for Michigan. And Harbaugh, for some reason, can't beat them. He just can't beat them. Yeah. Urban Meyer's got all the answers for what they're doing. And they're both good teams, but Ohio State got them good.
No, they really did. To me, the takeaway is almost like the snow in the Apple Cup, and what a game changer that was. To me, I was just so impressed by Ohio State's speed. I thought that Michigan has some fast guys, and they certainly lost one of their faster players. A real game changer in Devin Bush, the linebacker. When he went down, I thought that's when Ohio State really hit the accelerator as far as running the ball, which isn't surprising. You lose a speedy linebacker that way, but Paris Campbell, for example, the wide receiver for Ohio State, he's my personal top-rated senior wide receiver in this draft class. And it's not because I think that he runs the crispest routes or has the best hands, but damn, he can fly. He's 6 foot, he's 200 pounds, and he's, to me, my naked eye on TV screen, I'm thinking 4.3s. And so when he did that reverse and just ran away from what I consider to be a pretty solid safety for Michigan, maybe not a speedy guy, but an instinctive football player, and just completely ran away from him, I thought, wow, this is – and then, it just seemed like every time that the Buckeyes have a different receiver or a different running back, they just had a little bit more burst. And that the Buckeyes are going to have speed in the secondary, and they just kind of replace guys there. So to me, it seemed like at every position Ohio State was just a little bit faster. And of course, in the that's the name of the game once you get a little bit ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. With the Big Ten, or you want to call it the Big 12, whatever it is now, they are one of the teams that could play with SEC teams.
Yeah.
They have speed, athleticism, and that's the only one team in the Big Ten. That's the only one team.
I agree.
Yeah. And Can they match up, week to week and be the same team? Probably not, but they can definitely compete with the SEC. They can definitely compete. Michigan can't do that. Now, I understand their defense was number 1, number 2, whatever in the country, but they don't have, like you said, they don't have the speed. They don't have the athletes to match up with guys like that, Ohio State, guys like that in the SEC. They don't have it. They don't have it.
Well, and that's where we kind of get a little bit off track here, but to me that was the concern I had about Jim Harbaugh's teams at Stanford. Now I always thought, okay, well you're at Stanford, there's just the academic requirements here going to be different. You're going to be catering to a different type of player. But Michigan, I mean, the academic standards are high at Michigan too. I certainly don't want to suggest otherwise. But at the same time, your recruiting base is so much larger. That I would have thought that Michigan would be getting faster by this point. But it seems like they're still going to kind of do what Jim Harbaugh has done so successfully, the run heavy, tight end heavy type of offense. But it does feel like if you want to compete with Ohio State, then you need to be faster. And so that's what to me is going to be fascinating, is if Michigan's able to do that over these next couple of years. Because you can see that the Penn State and the Iowas of the world, the teams like that are always going to be good. Penn State is still still always going to recruit some incredible talent on the East Coast. And then I'm very curious to see what Scott Frost is cooking up in Nebraska, because that looks like a team that's on the rise as well. So there's some interesting football being played out there in the Big Ten.
No, there is, and it's like the Pac-12, where you want to call it, Pac-10, Pac-12.
Yep.
Is each one has their own characteristics.
Yeah.
And that's why the Southeast Conference is so good, is because of athletes.
Yeah.
Pure straight athletes. When you get in the Big Ten, good players. Don't get me wrong. I've drafted many of them.
Mm-hmm. Some very good ones.
But it's different football, and what Harbaugh did with Stanford and what he's trying to do with Michigan is pound the ball. Now, he changed a little bit because he knew he couldn't this year, but that's not going to get you a lot of wins. It'll get you a lot of wins with certain teams in the Big Ten, but it's not going to get you a lot of wins with the outside traffic coming in that are good players.
No, exactly. And that's the thing, is that I think that it's almost like you see in basketball, you see everybody wants to dunk, and there's very little passing that goes on anymore. I think in football there's very little blocking. That's at the lower levels. Everybody wants to be the running back. Everybody wants to be the quarterback. It's just not. It's the anti-Jim Harbaugh type of football. And so I think he's just it's going to be difficult, because you are recruiting from a smaller fan base in a way, or a smaller talent base in a way, because he is one of the few teams that's going to be looking for those players that play that style of football. I mean, everybody. I mean, there's junior highs out here, Scott, who are playing spread. I mean, it's a different game now.
No, I know.
Well, your son's winning all conference, recognition, picking off passes. So he probably loves spread. He gets more opportunities for him.
Yeah. No. The game's changing, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's always kind of changing, no matter what. But what you got to do, again, it comes down to, coaches, don't get me wrong, are very important. It comes down to players. It comes down who has more talent. Yep. If it's a running back, if it's a receiver, if it's a tight end, if offensive line or defensive line or safety or corner or pass rusher, that's what it comes down to. That's how you win. And the good teams prove it out. I mean, look at Alabama. I just got done with Clemson today and watched 5 defensive linemen. All 5 are going to get drafted.
Yep.
All 5. You think about that. You got a backup that's going to get drafted.
No, it's remarkable.
And you wonder why they're undefeated.
Yeah. Oh, they're to me that's one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to us talking about here as we get a little later in the show. Is kind of I was hoping to, well, we can talk about a little bit here as far as the looking ahead to this weekend, and we have the conference championship games. And so I was going to kind of take your thought there and basically say, okay, which team do I think has the more talent? So, in my mind, NFL prospects. And if we just go through the championship games and say, okay, which teams do you and I both agree is the most physically gifted team, then I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. So it's just going to kind of go in order and start off with the Pac-12 championship game, which is Friday night, Utah and Washington. I think that Washington has more NFL prospects, so my pick would be Washington.
It's good. It's going to be a damn good game. Kyle Whittingham's a really good head coach, and they'll play hard now. They'll play
very hard. This is Utah. Yeah. So Utah has never won the Pac-12 championship, never played in a Rose Bowl. Of course, Utah fought to get into the Pac-12. They didn't feel like they were getting enough credit before in different conferences. So I agree. I think Kyle Whittingham is a terrific coach. To me, he's kind of our style. The Jim Harbaugh and the being physical and just in terms of the way they play at the line of scrimmage. And then their defense. I mean, they get after you. He's my kind of football team too.
They're not afraid. The team you don't want to play is Utah. Now, Washington, I understand, went into Pullman and had a huge win. But I'm telling you, Utah, you got to be careful with because they're scary.
All right, interesting.
They're scary.
Interesting. Okay, so let's go to the Big 12 championships game. So we have Texas and Oklahoma. I think that the more NFL prospects are on Oklahoma side, so I'm taking Oklahoma.
A quarterback's lights out. Oklahoma. And I'll give Texas credit, and I give the young coach credit for having a heck of a year.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Kyler Murray's something else now.
He really is. He really is. I hope to get to watch him continue to play football because he is. and if not,
he'll do that. It's a lot easier in baseball than football, just so you know.
Well, exactly. You would know. I'm looking forward to some of those stories. The baseball stories. Okay, so we got that. Let's going down. Of course, got the SEC championship game, Alabama and Georgia. I think this is going to be a terrific game. This is the game I'm looking forward to the most. But when it comes down to talent, I think that Alabama gets the slight edge. I think you can make an argument that Georgia's the number 2 team in the country, even though I really like Clemson too. But I'm still going to take Alabama.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Alabama's going to win. But you know what? Like you said, Georgia's a good team. Fromm's, he's going to play okay. I promise you.
Yeah.
But Alabama, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is so loaded. It's amazing. They got backups that are really good players. I can't see Alabama losing the whole season. Clemson's going to give them a fight.
Yep.
In my opinion, in a national championship, but Alabama, it's like an NFL team.
It really is. And that's the thing is that it's kind of funny. You get some talking heads on TV and stuff who will say, oh, Alabama's like an NFL team. When I've got you here saying that. It's 2-time general managers, and I, not to puff you up, Scott, but, I've had my conversations with other scouts in the league, and, obviously you're very well respected for your ability to evaluate talent. So if you're saying that Alabama's like an NFL team, that's a much bigger thing than, some of the media members out there, or if I said it, for example. So I agree with you. I think that, like you commented before about Clemson, that, 5 different defensive linemen are going to be drafted. I mean, I'm not going to – I respect your time too much to ask you to watch too much Alabama tape. You might be there for days because there's just so many prospects.
I was. Hey, just so you know, I was. I spent a day and a half on them.
Gee. So, just put that in perspective. How long does it take you to say a different SEC team? Maybe not Alabama, maybe not Georgia, but, more of a middle-of-the-pack kind of a SEC team, a bowl team. Auburn,
probably 4 hours.
Wow.
3 to 4 hours.
In a day and a half. I don't want to, I'm not checking your hours here. It started at 8 a.m. and took a coffee break at lunch, or something. But How many hours do you think